And we are back here on Patriots No Huddle, brought to you by PatsFans.com. Derek Havens, Steve Balsherry, Mike Diabate, your hosts here in the house to preview the Super Bowl between the Patriots and Seahawks this week at Santa Clara. Gentlemen, I'm so excited for the game. It feels like a long time coming. It always does. And then it kind of sneaks up on you like it did for me with it right around the corner. Mike, I'm going to go over to you first, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, I have said it, I think, about 3,000 times this week to, various people. If you're a Patriots fan, or if you're in any way connected to the New England Patriots, you're a member of the media, or you're a player on the team, a coaching staff, anybody that works for the staff up at One Patriots Place in Gillette, anybody connected to this team right now has got to be feeling an era of good feelings. It really is an amazing time when your team is in the Super Bowl and you know that you're about to watch your favorite club on the grandest stage. You got to love it. And if you think about where this team was last year at this time, as opposed to where they are now, it really is a remarkable run. So, yeah, I'm doing great. Sleep deprived, but great.
I don't know what just happened, Mike, but somehow Steve dropped off. So I was going to go to him next, but glad you're doing well, my friend. We are going to be discussing an array of topics aside from obviously the game. So we'll save our prediction for the game. We're going to obviously break it down, give our normal preview, maybe talk about some prop bets, things like that. There's always things to talk about, but I would be. I guess I really would like to start though with the news that's not 100% confirmed, but pretty much set in stone. The Robert Kraft will not be getting into the Hall of Fame. Mike, what are your thoughts on Robert Kraft not getting into the Hall of Fame reportedly?
Well, again, I think it's another miscarriage of justice. I think that you look at the resume, you look at what he's done for the league, and not just what he's done as the owner of the New England Patriots, which, in my opinion, allows him entry in and of itself, but the impact that he's had on the league and their dealings and how he was instrumental in the strike year of bringing both sides together and helping both sides come together. I know Kraft has his detractors, as Belichick has his detractors, but to ignore the man's resume and the and what he's done to earn his way into the Hall of Fame, to me is a travesty. 23 playoff appearances in 32 years as an owner, 20 AFC East titles, 11 in a row from '09 to 2019, and of course, Patriots have won at least 12 games in 15 of the last seasons. To me, it's just it really is. It's amazing that that he's able to be kept out of the Hall of Fame at this point, and I mean that derisively. To me, there's no excuse why he wouldn't be in. There clearly is a Patriots bias, and I think you're seeing it on the grandest stage right now.
Yeah, it's. I think travesty is a good word for it. I think it's an absolute joke. I don't really understand the process. I also don't understand for fairness sake. I don't understand also the argument that, that it should just be kind of mandated in, either. I do think that there should be a process. I just don't like the execution of the process either, and really combining some of the senior members and all that. That convolutes the entire situation. To me, it should be simple as do they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Yes or no? And the combining it, I don't really understand that whole thing. Steve, glad you're back joining us. First of all, how you doing, my friend? And then give me your thoughts on Robert Kraft and the news he reportedly will not be joining this Hall of Fame class.
Yeah, I apologize. We're having a really bad windstorm here, and it knocked out my internet right as we went live.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it's just a typical day. Back spasms got me walking like Walter Brennan in The Real McCoys. So, or in Rio Bravo with John Wayne. So, and Dean Martin. But that's
I promise not to call you Stumpy. I swear I won't do it.
Chance, I got some dynamite. No, get into Robert Kraft. I mean, we might as well have Walter Brennan in the Pro Football Hall of Fame before Robert Kraft, right? Look, anybody who now says there isn't a conspiracy to keep the Patriots out, I think you'd be hard pressed to prove otherwise right now, because Kraft should have been in several years ago. I mean, you compare him with some of the other owners that are in there, there's no comparison. Bill Belichick not getting in. I can't wait to see what happens with Tom Brady next year. And those Patriots Super Bowl teams are so woefully unrepresented, I should say, in the Hall of Fame right now. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I feel bad for Kraft. I know he's been politicking to get in, which I don't blame him. Everyone else does. They just, they don't call attention to it when they do it. So, look, it's terrible, and there's no other way to put it.
I'm with agreement with you both. I think what he's done for the league and the amount of Super Bowls that he's been a part of, what he's done, over his entirety of ownership has just been remarkable and absolutely deserves his place. And I think the Brady element next year's a factor too. Or is this going to be one of those things where uh, they're all going in around the same time, or are they going to make, is there going to be an issue with Brady in terms of, does he get some negative pushback for some of the things, which I think if you thought Belichick got pushback, if there was a blowback from Belichick not being in the Hall of Fame, I think there would be quite literally even more negative and spotlight on the Hall of Fame committee and process then. But I don't want to get them in trouble for something they haven't done yet, as a Felger commandment that I abide by. But even though he breaks that rule all the time, I do not. Anyways, we
He's
do have
such
some
a
other
blowhard.
NFL. We do have some NFL honors things to discuss. Mike, I'll let you kind of roll with that. In terms of, from a Patriots standpoint, NFL honors, what are your thoughts on what we were talking about offline?
Well, the New England Patriots are up for several of the NFL's top honors. That award ceremony be held tonight at, I believe at Levi Stadium. It's going to be in Santa Clara, California, and obviously Drake May up for a couple of big ones: MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. Travion Henderson is up for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Mike Vrabel up for Coach of the Year. Stephon Diggs right now is up for Comeback Player of the Year. And Josh McDaniels is up for Assistant Coach of the Year. Last but certainly not least, Hunter Henry is up for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So there is an awful lot of Patriot representation here. And it's going to be interesting to see how much this team has ingratiated itself into the good graces of the Associated Press, who are going to be nominating these awards. A lot of what we're seeing coming from the NFL Network and various tweets out there seems to indicate that there's still a Patriots bias out there, that these Patriots are paying for, quote unquote, the sins of the father. And I think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely asinine that more Patriot players are not recognized for the great work that they do on the field, and especially in the case of Hunter Henry, the great work that he does off of it. So, in that regard, your guess is as good as mine if they're going to take home any of these awards. Right now, I'd say the best shot that they have to get an NFL honor tonight would be Mike Vrabel as Coach of the Year. He's already won the PFWA version of it. He would be the third Patriots coach to do it. Bill Parcells won the award in 1994, and then Bill Belichick did it 3 times during his tenure here in New England. So I think Vrabel's got a good shot. I wouldn't say he's a shoo-in by any stretch of the imagination. I think the other 3 are going to be tough to crack, but a dark horse could be Drake May as Offensive Player of the Year. Maybe that's how they offset it. Maybe they don't give him the MVP, but maybe the OPOY is the way to go with him. So I'll be interested to see how this all shakes out.
I'm in agreement again. I think that it's certainly. I'm certainly interested in just how the whole process plays out, for one, first and foremost. But I do think that Vrabel should be Coach of the Year, and I think there's a lot of momentum, his way, or a lot of. And I say momentum. I understand the voting already happened, but you hear more and more once from the time that the vote's been cast. And the insiders, when they leak things, it's more from the people who actually want to tell people who they voted for, but don't want to just say it themselves. That's where you start hearing those leaks from, especially when you have the Super Bowl week. It's very similar to Senior Bowl week and the Combine and all of these things, where there's a lot of players, a lot of agents, a lot of family members, a lot of teams and executives rubbing elbows, having dinners, and there's a lot of talking, gossiping kind of stuff, go a little water cooler talk going on. So I think you are seeing some things. I'm curious what happens with Drake May. Obviously, that'll be an interesting one as well. Steve, what are your thoughts on everything Mike shared and your view on it?
Yes. I was reading NFL.com's, their website. They posted about the honors, and they had their own poll amongst the writers that write for the NFL Network. And if that's any indication, Mike is right. The only one that's going to have a good shot at it would be Mike Vrabel, because in their polling, 22 voted for Matt Stafford, 3 voted for Drake May. Travion Henderson and Stephon Diggs received no votes for their particular honors. Vrabel did pull out a close win on his for the Coach of the Year. And then I believe Josh McDaniels only received 3 votes for assistant. So, it doesn't look very promising.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. On the promising factor of it. I mean, I I get torn about some of the awards. I really get annoyed with the MVP voting because it really turns into best quarterback, and I do think that you could make a lot of cases when you talk about strictly with the true meaning of most valuable player. I think that you could look at a lot of players around the league that bring extraordinary value to the team, and where they'd be without that player if he was removed. I mean, I'm just going to use this player as an example, in Myles Garrett with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, what he means. I mean, look at just what he means for ticket sales for Cleveland and jersey sales and everything that he can market, just as a star athlete, probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's basically a lock, and a player that really has a total force and someone that would give a headache to any offensive coach around the league that has to go and face him. So I'm wondering if that will ever change. I doubt it. I think it'll always be kind of what it is. But I think that there's certainly some good debate in a lot of different categories. So that'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Any thoughts, gentlemen, on anything that you've heard from Radio Week so far going around? I know there's a couple of different things, and I want to bring up this one specifically because it's something that we've talked about on the show for the last couple of weeks and months. And it was the Athletics' Diana Rossini, who was doing kind of the media car wash, and that was on Patriots.com. She was on WEEI. She was on NBC Sports Boston, amongst many others. Flat out said on multiple platforms, local platforms, that there was Max Crosby that was discussed. She flat out claimed that he has told her that he would love to play for Mike Vrabel, and she thinks it's trending towards his time being done there. And as we've talked about in the past, whether it was the MVP talk with Drake May, whether he wins or loses, whether the Patriots win the Super Bowl or unfortunately don't, the fact that they got here, I think both of those things will ultimately draw a lot of attention and carry a significant amount of weight to attract other free agents or other players that are available by trade potentially, and add star power to a team, especially when you see a franchise that a lot of these players frankly grew up watching, see a winning culture. Now they're back in the Super Bowl again, have a MVP finalist, a Coach of the Year finalist, and and that quarterback in the potential MVP is a 23-year-old, borderline star. And I think that's going to carry a bunch of weight in that, maybe whether that's Max Crosby or whoever else. So I guess that's the long way of saying, Steve, What are your thoughts on not just the Max Crosby thing, but just the overall idea and how those things intertwine?
Well, you go back to a couple of years ago, and one of two of the things that kept free agents away was the fact that the Patriots didn't have an established quarterback. And, there was a lot of questions about their head coach. And because, Gerard Mayo wasn't really known outside of New England circles. I mean, yeah, the people in the league, they had a nice opinion of him, but he had no connections, and that ended up biting him when it came to trying to hire assistants. And so now those two blocks are checked, and now they have success. They're in the Super Bowl. Drake May had a MVP worthy season. We'll just leave it at that. And now, guys are going to want to come back and play in New England. I mean, look, I think, Mike Vrabel has done more for that, I think, that even Drake May has. I mean, your quarterback is so important, but you look at the videos of Vrabel all year long and how he relates to the players. And I think that resonates so well, especially with the veterans. You can see how he relates to his veteran players, how he builds a personal relationship with them. And that's going to play into when we talk about the Super Bowl. But I think that does so much to draw free agents to your team.
Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts?
He's
Mike.
muted.
Yeah, Mike, you're muted, bud.
Oh, that's great.
What are your thoughts on what Steve just shared, Mike?
Well, for the second time, but the first time you guys didn't get to hear it because I was on mute. I apologize for that, folks. Essentially, I wrote about this last night for Sports Illustrated and a piece that dropped just a little while ago on what a deal for Max Crosby might look like for the New England Patriots. Look, there's no question about it. Every team would love to add a player of Crosby's prowess to the mix. This past season, 10 sacks, 73 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 6 pass breakups. First career interception had last year as well, made 15 starts. He was not happy with the way things ended in Las Vegas, which is reportedly why he wants out. So if you take a guy that good and you add a little cantankerous into his approach to the game, yeah, you're going to be getting a guy that's a beast, a guy that's eager to prove that he is the top defender, or at least among the top defenders at his position. Once again, it's going to come down to money. It's going to come down to contract. New England has proven now that they're not afraid to write the big checks any longer. Spoke to our good mutual friend, Miguel Benzon, last night a little bit about this. He informed me that he projects New England's cap number this year to be at about 42.6 million under. That's using the median of 303.45 million for his calculations. And this means that the Patriots can maintain their spot at a top 10 level for probably about 10 years in the league. So if it's a situation where you're worried about, can the Patriots take on Max's monster contract or sign him to a bigger contract if he so desires, yeah, the Pats can handle it. They're going to have to move some stuff around, but it can be done. Now, you also look at the fact that they have several of their own homegrown superstars that they want to keep locked up long term. Drake May is looming. That contract is out there. You have to be cognizant of it. You look at Christian Gonzalez. He's going to want big money. And, worth every penny, in my opinion. So you have to be mindful of what type of players you're bringing in and what you're doing to your team financially. If they can make it work, I'm all for it. The other part of that is, from what I'm hearing, it's going to take a huge haul to be able to take him out of Las Vegas. You're looking at the Micah Parsons type deal right now where Micah got 2 first rounders, or fetched, I should say, 2 first rounders and an NFL bona fide talent. It's going to take something similar, if not even more, to pry him away. So it's going to be a very delicate situation about trying to make a move here. But if you're looking at just pure logistics, I think Steve hit the nail right on the head. There is no roadblock any longer for people that are essentially being told, stay away from New England, or you don't want any part of that. I can't imagine any player not wanting to come up here and not only compete for a championship, but play for Mike Vrabel and get a chance to be a part of this team that really seems like it's having a blast this year. It's a huge marketing tool, and the Patriots need to use it to their advantage.
Using the Crosby examples, just to kind of use this, just him specifically for this example's sake, like, if you're looking at the Micah Parsons thing, that was an out of division trade, but in conference. Obviously, Parsons is younger, so there's a factor. That is a factor as well. Um, but it would take a haul. The then question would be, again, just for whether it's Crosby or anybody else, what do you feel comfortable giving up? Okay, and this is an off-season conversation, so we don't have to spend much time on this because it's Super Bowl week. But like, then my argument would be, okay, that's great. You have filled some holes. You've obviously made some good moves to correct the roster, and players have progressed, and you're a better team than you were. We knew that going into this year, and obviously that's been confirmed and surpassed our expectations, dramatically. But I would still acknowledge the fact that there's still a lot of holes to fill, and they're still overhauling the roster, and it's still good, So if you start giving away multiple first round picks, I still think that's a conversation and a debate to be had because you're going to be looking at you've strung together a couple of good first rounders and had some decent drafts, but you want to keep that going. And I would say you're still looking at some big positions, whether that's offensive tackle as a replacement for Moses potentially, or if you kick Will Campbell to guard, again, this is an offseason conversation, or if you want an edge player. If you're getting a Max Crosby, that does check that box, but you do have to kind of play with that whole asset thing. And whether you're in a position, I think you're in a better position and have the addition of the spotlight of success and everything and the attraction of coming here. But you do have to think about the team building as a whole, but they're in a better position to add players and more attractive as a destination now than they were. So it'll be fun for that, especially with the reported salary cap going up too. So we'll talk about that as we get into the draft stuff and the offseason and free agents and all that coming up after the show. So, but that is interesting. In Radio Row, you always start to hear opinions and rumors and little things like that because there's, as we certainly know, going back the last couple of years, the season ended long ago for many teams across the league. So they're well into that conversation. And there have been times where Steve and I started talking about the draft last couple of years around October.
Yeah, 2 years ago, we were talking about it in October.
So, I mean,
that's when we first started talking about Drake May.
Absolutely. And
2 Octobers ago.
Yeah. So it's been a while, going back to 2024. So, anyways, before we start getting into the game, gentlemen, Steve, anything else you want to get into before we start breaking down the game?
Well, just on the game itself, look, everybody is so hyped, right, about getting the next great offensive guru, the young, offensive play caller. And in this Super Bowl, we have 2 defensive coaches. And look, both of these guys are very similar in the aspect that when they came in, now obviously, Mike McDonald's been there 2 years, where Vrabel just came in this year. But you look at how they built their teams, they got people to buy in, and it's all about building connections rather than, having the latest, greatest guy who's X's and O's, which sometimes doesn't translate, as we saw what happened in Miami, right? I think that, if you're a team looking for a head coach, you don't necessarily have to get that next great offensive mind. It's sometimes a defensive coach who can build those connections with your younger players, with your veterans. That goes light years ahead of, being a great offensive play caller. And I think it speaks volumes of these 2 teams, on Sunday, because they're kind of built in the same mode. Now they're obviously very different, But at the same
But there are
time,
some similarities, though.
there's a lot of similarities in how they were built and the philosophy that goes into team building. And I think that needed to be mentioned. That's all.
I think it's a great place to start, and I'm going to piggyback off that. I mean, as we kind of go here. And by the way, thank you again for everyone who's listening, live, whether that's on X or Facebook. Feel free to drop in a comment or message us if you want to, throw out anything on there. But we appreciate whether you're listening live or downloading later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Be sure to share us, leave us a review, keeps us high in those podcast rankings so other Patriots fans can find us, and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Again, this is brought to you by PatsFans.com. In the same breath, gentlemen, I would say that I really like what Mike McDonald has done with his time with Seattle. The way that as an organization they've built the team, tremendous defense, very versatile, very what's the word I want to use? But there's a lot. They play with a lot of fire, a lot of passion, a lot of heart. They swarm to the ball. Again, that
They're very
McDonald.
violent.
Yep, that very violent. The McDonald scheme can give a lot of people fits. There's a lot of players on that team that I think a coach like Bill Belichick would love. A couple of them that are, and we'll get into that. But and I'm sure Vrabel and Kerr would mind a couple of those players as well. But flip to the Patriots side, man, the Patriots defense continues to get, I think, not the credit they deserve. A lot of people are focusing. A lot of people are focusing on the postseason for the Patriots, and given their offensive struggles in a vacuum to the postseason, and the defense. Looking at the competition played, et cetera, this defense has been doing it all year long, as we all know. Again, the Patriots bring a very, spin the dial kind of defense, give quarterbacks fits. I also swarm to the ball, been doing great against the run. It looks like they're going to have a lot of players, at least at sub capacity, be able to kind of rotate in and out, whether that's Spillane, Harold Landry, et cetera, guys like that. And offensively, they like to do a lot of similar things as well. Different talent levels, and there's, again, as Steve said, some differences there, but there are some striking similarities to both teams. Mike, share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, I'm not on mute this time. Amazing, folks. It really is. I gotta love it. Technology is certainly not my friend today. I don't know when I'm on mute, when I'm not on mute, but you know what? It's all good. I appreciate that. It really is. It's been a long week when you're not even aware when you're on mute. But no, I think honestly, I do. I think you've hit the nail right on the head. Look, I mean, the way that these games, the way that these weeks are structured, and everything that goes into it, all the ins and outs, and everything that this game entails, it really is remarkable that these teams are able to get on the field and take the field and play a game, and make sure that they're able to execute their game planning. And I know we're going to get into the games in just a little bit, and what it means for both sides. To be led onto the field and compete in the Super Bowl game. But the one thing that struck me throughout the week continues to be an appreciation by both sides to be where they are, but a sense of there's still yet something to come. And I think that's refreshing. You don't want to hear that players are just content to be there. You want to see that desire to be better. You want to see that desire to raise above. So good stuff all the way around. And I, for one, just really can't wait to get to the action on the field this week.
Yeah, and we can dive right into it. Mike, as we're talking about the game, I'll let you pick the thread you want to pull on first. Where do you want to start with this matchup?
Well, to me, I think it really begins with the best way to try to neutralize what that Seattle defense is going to do well. And what that Seattle defense does well is pretty much everything, Derek. I've described them as a chameleon-like defense all week long, and that's simply because they're so good at being able to adapt to what the other team is doing. If you have an opposing offense that's trying to move the ball through the air, they can maneuver around that. They can transform into a solid defense and a defense that can shut you down. Or if you decide you want to try to run the ball, they can go and they can stack the box and prevent you from doing that. So there is a lot that this defense does well. But the one thing where they can be vulnerable and they can be had is if you can get a solid running game going first to open up play action and use the intermediate areas of the field. That is one area in the passing game where Seattle has been average. They've looked mortal in defending tight ends, bigger receivers, slot weapons that can get into the middle of the field. So to me, this is the essence of the chess match right now between Mike Macdonald and Mike Vrabel, obviously, but really Josh McDaniels, because I think this is going to require an effort from Ramondre Stevenson. I think it's going to require an effort from Travion Henderson. And I think it's going to require a little bit more leg use from Drake May than airing it out, and then always, pushing the deep ball downfield. If they can start to utilize Drake's ability to move early and get the running backs going quickly, that's going to allow them to be able to take advantage of the intermediate areas. To me, that's going to be the key. And obviously, if they're going to run the ball well, they've got to control the line of scrimmage. This is a huge game for the offensive line.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you look at the Seattle defense, again, you go back to versatility. They can adapt and, like you said, chameleon type to a lot of different, opposing style of offenses that they're facing. The front can be swarming. They have, what, four guys with 7 sacks or more. Uh, I want to say, and Dexter Lawrence has 6, if I'm not mistaken. So they have a lot of guys that have racked up some totals there. Nick Memoirier is a name to certainly watch, given his ankle injury that he sustained in practice on Wednesday. And that is something to certainly watch because he's kind of like their big nickel and their star player and, in their star role, and does everything from safety to slot to in the box, very physical, very, very different. Secondary is long, opportunistic. I love what Ernest Jones does in the middle of that defense, kind of flies around the ball. So yeah, it's going to be tough. And I think you outlined it really, really well, Mike. How do you not start when you're talking about Seattle and look at what their defensive challenges are going to be? I do think that there's some opportunities in the middle of the field, and I'll circle back to that a little bit later. But first, I want to grab Steve's thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think Mike hit it right on the head. I mean, they do everything very well. They don't really have a quote unquote weakness, but I mean, they're not infallible. There will be plays to be had there, but you have to execute and you have to call the right play at the right time. Look, I think, as Mike said, bigger receivers. I think if the Patriots win this game, I think it's going to come down. Mac Hollins will have a big. He'll be a big factor in this. I think Travion Henderson needs to be a much bigger factor than he was in Denver, especially in the passing game. I can see them trying to get him, open in the passing game, and I totally agree with Mike because I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to run just with their running backs. I think that Drake May is going to have to run the ball quite a bit, and he's going to have to be effective doing so. But at the same time, look, when it comes to scheming things up, like I said, I think Mac Hollins, Travion Henderson in the passing game, and I think they need to find a way to get Keyshawn Boutte on Josh Jobe. These or maybe Kyle Williams on Josh Jobe. These are the matchups that they're going to have to win. We know Will Campbell will be facing DeMarcus Lawrence. That's going to be a big one. But it is what it is, and I think the Patriots' offense has it in them to do well, whether or not they can generate their offense again. I know they've struggled in the postseason, but at the same time, 2 of their games were just absolutely horrible weather. So, hopefully, they get back to more of a normal weather kind of game and see what they can do against this defense. But again, I think this Seattle defense is legit, but at the same time, so's the Patriots offense.
Yep. No, I'm with you on that one. I do think the Seattle's defense is probably the second best they faced, right behind Houston. Um, and I've heard a lot of people make the case they're better than Houston. But you could throw in a bunch of the defenses that they've played in the postseason and a couple throughout the year that are all tough. They present their own challenges. I mentioned taking advantage of the middle of the field. They're right in the middle of the pack in a lot of tight end metrics from a defensive standpoint. I do think Hunter Henry could be a big factor in this game, especially because Nick Emenwariye, probably not even pronouncing it right, but I'm doing the best I can,
Mhm.
especially with him being potentially banged up for the game. Right now, he has some time to heal up, but he had a pretty significant limp with the video that I've seen being floated around. I'm sure he'll tape it up and shoot it up, and we'll see. But his mobility, if it's hindered, I could see a lot of scenarios where, as Steve alluded to, the matchup between Dexter Lawrence and Will Campbell, for example, you have a tight end on the left hand side, whether that's Hunter Henry, whoever else, do a quick chip and try to help with the initial step off the line and then release out into the middle, and hopefully you can win the one-on-one matchup there with a banged up Emenwariye, and maybe you can kind of pick up things. I look at a matchup with the tight end, I'll put tight ends, but specifically Hunter Henry, I think could have a decent game. I want to say Seattle's allowing right around 6 catches for 67 yards, or I know it's around 67 yards that they've been averaging around for tight ends. Allowed as a defense. So I want to see if that middle of the field could be a place to go. And I think with the screen passes, Drake May's legs, kind of using that will be critical, of course, but they're gonna have to figure out a way to penetrate this defense. And it's not like it's the 2000 Ravens, but it's a significantly good defense that presents a lot of challenges. And I think their ability to match up with different teams has stood out consistently all season long. Um, so Mike, what are your any thoughts on what we just shared there?
Yeah, I think you guys are right on the money, especially when it comes to Nick's injury now and where Seattle is going to go as a result of that. Let's not forget that one of the more prominent roles that he's played is as their nickel back, their fifth defender back there. He's been an
Mhm.
X factor all season long, but that allows the New England Patriots now to tweak some of their matchups. Like Steve said, it could be a big game for Hunter Henry. It could be a big game for Austin Hooper. Don't necessarily discount the slot weapons. Somebody like a Stephon Diggs or now somebody like a Demario Douglas could end up finding more opportunities over the intermediate areas of the field because of the fact that there aren't going to be that type of stifling defender that they're used to seeing. This could help to sway things in the direction of the New England Patriots right now. So I think it's going to be interesting over the course of the next couple of days. Keep our ears to the ground. Find out what is coming from the Seahawks camp when it comes to Nick's injury. We saw him limp. I agree with you. It didn't look good. But I do have a source close to the Seattle Seahawks who informed me that starting last night, he was getting constant treatment on that, even at the Seahawks hotel all night long, and that he's going to continue to have it evaluated. He's got a couple of days to rest it. Uh, we've seen stranger things happen in the past for a guy to come out and then look, pretty good after what is assumed to be a sprain on his ankle. So, going to be interesting to watch how this all plays out. But it could be significant for Seattle if he's in any way hampered.
Yeah, I think it'd be an absolutely
He's kind
monster.
of like their Kyle Hamilton, like when you play the
Sure.
Ravens.
Right.
He
Very
plays
good
that
analogy.
role similar to Kyle
Yeah,
Hamilton.
yeah, that role, Derwin James, Nick and Derwin are a little bit different athletes, but that kind of, the Kyle Hamiltons, I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of them, but, I think, I kind of look at him almost as like a little bit of a souped up Jabril Peppers, but certainly a little bit better in coverage. But anyways, it's a factor, and it'll be interesting to see how they kind of go with that. I mean, I think you have to look at the running game. Obviously, I think both teams are going to. It's going to be critical for both teams to want to run the ball just given that way their offenses perform, and the way they like to play, and then of course stopping the run. For the Patriots, obviously, with Spillane being able to play in some capacity, what the amount is yet to be seen. But having if he's back and he's you know um, anywhere close to like 90%. I don't know what percentage he's going to be on, but he's just such a key part of their run defense. Obviously, we've seen the impact with Milton Williams and what they've been able to do as a front against the run. As a whole, that's going to be crucial because Kenneth Walker can go the distance in a minute, and I do think the Zach Charbonnet injury is going to hurt the Seattle in this game. Not having him, but Walker's the kind of guy that can really take it the distance from any point on the field, explosive. When you're talking about the Patriots defense and worrying about explosive plays, you look at JSN in the passing game, of course, but Kenneth Walker right there in the running game. And I think how the Patriots, the running game is going to be key, and you kind of tie it into first down there too for both teams because it will open up the playbook. Again, different offenses, but they like to do similar things, Steve.
Yeah, and look, they like to run the ball. Obviously, they they run a lot more than they pass, and they're I think one of the top teams when it comes to the amount of running that they do. But I think the Patriots are in a good position to slow or even stop that running game. And look, when it comes to Seattle's running game, it's kind of feast or famine. And I'll give you an example. Some of the stuff that I've been reading and looking up, among 55 backs that have 75 carries or more, Walker is 45th in his success rate, which tells you that for the most part, he's not having a lot of success, right? But when it comes to explosive plays and like 20-yard runs, he's third best in the league. So that's why I say it's feast or famine. And the Patriots have to take away that feast part. All right. Because he had 10 runs of 20 yards or more this season. So, he might not have a lot of success all game long, but he's going to have those big runs where he gets 20-yard runs. And those are the ones that you have to take away.
And those are going to be, and those could be killers though, Steve, because that puts them, if even it's starting with a touchback. I mean, that puts you in the opposite end of the field and shortens that game. And this, both teams are going to want to kind of shorten the game, and there's going to be a lot of field position. And look, Vrabel's going to lay it out on the line. I mean, Vrabel's not afraid to be aggressive in this game, and I don't think Seattle will be either. Again, I think both Mikes are unafraid to put it all out there on fourth down.
Right. Well, and again, when it comes to Walker, I mean, you see, it looks like several times you watch some of their games where it looks like they have him and he's down, and then he breaks a tackle, he breaks a second tackle, and then he's running into the secondary. And those are the type of plays that they're going to have to take away. And I think the Patriots defense can do that. They're very, very good at stopping the run. And they've proved that, in the postseason. So I think they're pretty good there. Now, when it comes to, JSN, that's going to be Seattle's X factor because they move him all around. And I don't think you can, realistically put Christian Gonzalez on him, all game long. I don't think you can. He's going to have, sometimes he lines up in the backfield, whatever. But the one thing about Darnold, when he's not under pressure, he's number 3 in EPA, success rate. But when he's pressured, he's 28. So there's that, again, they're going to have to bring pressure on Darnold, especially on third downs. 3rd and 7 or more, Seattle struggles. If 3rd and 6 and less, they're very good.
Yep. Mike, thoughts on that?
Oh, I think you guys are right on the money, especially when it comes to Walker and being the catalyst, I think, of that offense. Everybody makes a big deal about JSN and the job that he's able to do. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, again, is a chess piece. You can move him around all over the field. But if Seattle is going to have success against this New England Patriots team, they're going to have to run the ball effectively. And again, I think to Steve's point, they need to get cluster runs. They need to get and stack those runs one onto another. We had the opportunity to speak with Matt Chatham earlier this week on my podcast, the All Patriots Talk show for on SI, and he mentioned Kenneth Walker and said the last thing that you want to hear is that announce team and Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth going, "There's another run for Walker. Give it to Kenneth again. They just gave it another run." You can't continuously hear that throughout this game and expect the Patriots defense to have success in keeping that Seattle offense in check, because if he's running the football effectively and getting yardage early on downs, then you can kind of pick your poison. JSN can become your weapon and he can be moved all around the field. Let's not forget about someone like a Rashid Shaheed, who is an absolute burner and can really win the speed battle with just about anybody he's matched with. Cooper Kupp is someone else who has been to the puppet show, seen the strings. He's a very established and experienced receiver. So they've got a lot of different weapons that they can use to make you pay. Another name that I don't think a lot of people are talking about enough is tight end AJ Barner. AJ is not a guy that's going to win you a lot of battles in the field in a foot race, but intermediate, when he gets the ball, he's very good at going up, making contested catches, and he's also excellent in the red zone. To me, that's where I would really zero in a lot of my efforts to try to prevent him from getting open down there, because he could be a weapon for Darnold. He has been this year. We'll see what happens. But in my opinion, it all starts with trying to contain Kenneth Walker and keep him from getting a rhythm early. You do that, you've got a good chance to keep the Seattle offense in check.
Right. And I think when we were looking at this game, when we're all said and done, I mean, a lot of people will focus on third downs, guys. I am actually going to be focusing more on first down. And it kind of is I think it's so critical for both teams, uh, just the entire for just the way they want to play. I mean, with Seattle wanting to run the ball and given their success rate, as Steve just mentioned, the difference they have inside 7 yards versus 7 yards or more is staggering. And if you're able to contain Walker and really limit those any kind of big runs, it will force them into more third and longs, and that's when you're going to be able to um, really have a better opportunity to get off the field. For the Patriots, they're going to want to do as much to create positive matchups against the Seattle defense as possible. And that means that if they run the ball, if they're able to run the ball with some success, that's when you're going to be able to start seeing those play action, pull guys forward, and then maybe be able to pass to Hunter Henry over the middle field. That's when you'll be able to do some misdirection and then maybe utilize Drake May's legs or work a screen pass on the other side of the field. But you need that defense moving side to side and open up that playbook for yourself as you get into those third and short kind of gains and opportunities. So I think first down is going to be critical, just given the fact that both teams are going to be focusing on the run game, whether on offense or defense. I think that's just going to be such a factor with how these teams want to play, Steve.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, it's going to come down to execution. I mean, we know how good Seattle's defense is, but they're not infallible. And look, their offense is it's good, but I don't think it's as good as people are building them up to be. I mean, they've been kind of middle of the road all season long, and I think it comes down to again, you have to be able to limit those explosive plays in the running game, and I think everything kind of falls into place at that point for you defensively. And I think the Patriots are well set up for that. I think it's going to be a defensive. This is going to be not a game for the faint of heart. I think there's going to be a lot of hard hitting in this one, And I think it's, those who are afraid to tread across the middle of the field, I think you'd be sitting on the bench because it's going to be one of those type of games.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of white knuckling of the steering wheel, so to speak. And I would be surprised if the game unfolded where it's. I could see a scenario where, back to back, each team takes, a good drive with some chunk plays, and there's a little bit of excitement there. But I think more often than not, you're probably not going to see, if I had to guess, huge chunk plays consistently on both sides. I think it's going to be one of those games where we look at it and say, these little things are really going to add up, because I think, especially with special teams, with Marcus Jones as a returner for the Patriots, who's a weapon, Shaheed, who's a weapon for Seattle, both punters with the field goal, both punters with field position being at play. The field goal opportunities will be interesting, because I think both coaches are the type to go for it on fourth down if it's a short distance, if it's in that kind of iffy range. Vrabel certainly has shown that multiple times throughout the year with a rookie kicker there, and he has no problem going for it. So those borderline ranges would not be surprising if they get that, if they go for some more aggressive opportunities there. And then obviously you're going to need to come away with some points, so you're going to have to maximize those opportunities. But special teams is going to be a big factor in those games, and you start talking about, how this game is probably going to unfold. I think it's going to be an old school heavyweight boxing match, a lot of coming down to the trenches and the nitty gritty thing. And I certainly think that, the situational awareness, and, penalties, things like that will certainly kind of come out and play as well. Mike, thoughts on that?
Absolutely, without any doubt, I believe this is going to be an old-fashioned slugfest, and I think that's the way both of these teams want it. They're predicated on their defense as much as the offenses are going to get credit, and there's a lot of star power on both sides of these offensive staffs that we're looking for when it comes to the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. I think the winner is going to be the team that's best able to control the line of scrimmage, and generally, I should say, it's going to be whether or not the Seattle defense or the New England defense is able to push that line to get their running backs in position, to be able to contain the opposing running backs and make sure that they're not dictating the tempo. Whichever team does that, in my opinion, is going to be the one that comes out on top. I think it's going to be defensive control of the line of scrimmage that ends up being the deciding factor here.
Steve?
I totally agree with that. And look, I think, I think turnovers in this game are going to tell the tale. I think if you can keep yourself from turning the ball over, you have a good shot at it. I think if you generate a turnover or maybe even two, the chances of you winning go up exponentially.
Gentlemen, do we want to get into our keys to the game and then start getting into that whole thing? So
Let's do it.
Let's go to you, Steve. Give me your keys to the game here.
Yeah, three quick keys to the game for the Patriots. I wrote them down yesterday. I think number one is Drake May is going to have to force the issue with his feet. Okay, that will keep that pass rush, without teeing off on every down, and maybe wear them down a little bit if they start chasing him around. But I think that's a big key for the Patriots, because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against Seattle's defense with strictly their running backs. So I think that's a big one for the Patriots, and that'll keep their play action game going. I think they have to, number two, they have to hit a couple of those big plays. Keyshawn Boutte, Kyle Williams, maybe even Mac Hollins. They're going to have to stretch that defense out. And Mike pointed out earlier, I mean, it's not like it's a weakness, but there's going to be some plays there, and you're going to have to be able to hit it. And number three is, the same thing defensively that we've seen all postseason. They're going to have to bring pressure on Sam Darnold. As I pointed out, when he's not under pressure, he's number 3 in EPA in the league, and he will tear you a new one. When he's pressured, he's 28th, and he's been prone to turn the ball over. I think that's what you have to do. And you're going to have to get pressure on him, especially, as I said, on third down, because I think that's going to be key. They have to bring pressure and get a turnover or two on third downs.
Yeah, some great points there. Mike, your thoughts on did you first of all, Mike, do you have your own three keys prepared or any if you don't, any thoughts on Steve's?
No, I mean I do, and actually they are very similar, eerily similar to Steve's because we do think alike, and I do agree with a lot of what he said. My first one, and this goes out to our good friend Claire Cooper over in the West Midlands, who I believe is
Hey,
watching and
Claire.
listening right now. Hi, Claire. Watch the tight ends. I think that is going to be a very key battle for both teams. Who's winning in that regard? Are Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper getting more open looks with Nick's injury in that Seattle secondary? And are they taking advantage of chipping at the line and getting into the field, into the intermediate areas? Keep an eye on that. Conversely, for Seattle, is someone like an A.J. Barner getting open in the end zone, in the red zone, and allowing Sam Darnold to be able to hit him? Whoever's winning that battle could end up finding themselves on the large end of the stick when it comes to points to be put up in the Super Bowl. The second is one that I keep hammering home, and I just did a few moments ago. Defensive control of the line of scrimmage, an absolute must in this game. Prevent your opposite offensive line from being able to push the line and get their running backs going. Whichever team is going to be able to do that, I think, is the team that's going to end up coming out on top. And last but certainly not least is exactly the same one that Steve had as his number one. If you're the New England Patriots, you have got to put pressure on Sam Darnold. Confuse him, get him off of his game early, have him looking around, make him see ghosts again, because that is going to allow you to be able to set and play your game and make sure that that defense is clicking on all cylinders, not only in the defensive front, but also in the middle and then in the back end of the secondary. A lot of that includes containing Kenneth Walker, who I agreed with earlier, is probably the key to that area. But it all begins and ends with making life uncomfortable with Sam Darnold from the moment that ball is snapped. You want him unsure of what he's going to be doing in that given moment. That's going to give, I think, the New England Patriots an edge here. If you do all those three, that's got definitely more than a puncher's chance at this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm right in line with both of you here. I think it really comes down to explosive plays. You need them. You have to go ahead and take them away from Seattle. Um, uh, for number two, I'm going to go back to the first down thing. I really think that's going to help. We've seen what the this is true for most any offense, but specifically what the Patriots, how they're kind of built to operate this year. When they've had success and they get into that rhythm, where they usually do have that early success on first down, and that usually does stem from the running game, which will be my third point. But I do think that having that success and really minimizing what Seattle can do on first down will go ahead and swing a huge advantage your way and really set up the flow of the drive, as well as put yourself into a position to succeed on third down, or vice versa if they're on defense, etc. The run game, to me, again, because both teams are going to want to have the run game be how they play off everything else they do, and how they want to control the game into this knockdown, drag out, street fight kind of matchup. I think that's going to be ultimately. You tell me what how Seattle's ground game performed and how New England's ground game performed, then I can probably look at those two numbers and tell you who won the matchup. Given just that whole thing, to kind of tab off something that Steve said, and Mike, I believe you said as well, with Drake May's legs. Uh, I don't know if this is a good or I think it's a good way to put it. I certainly don't mean it to be a negative, but I think there's going to have to be a little bit of Josh Allen mentality with Drake May this week in terms of how he utilizes his legs, because I do think there's going to be some scenarios where um, I'm not saying he's gonna want to tuck and run every single time, but I don't think they're gonna be able to generate their ground game solely with just running backs. And I think Drake May's legs are gonna have to be a part of that. And him, picking up 3-4 yards or scampering ahead for 7, 8 yards and just kind of taking what's there and don't go broke taking a profit and those kind of things. I think, especially the way Seattle's defense is set up, he should have some opportunities if he can slide or roll out of the pocket to go ahead and pick up and move the sticks a couple occasions and potentially score in the red zone area. So I think that's really what you're really how I envision them having success as an offense is Drake May being able to kind of take over the game, not only as a thrower, but I think specifically in the run game as well, because it's so hard to stress for a defense to stress an opposing offense when you have to really worry about a quarterback with the kind of wheels that May has displayed in his early on in his career. Gentlemen, right now, the game, which is set obviously for Sunday. We are recording this right now, right around 4 o'clock Eastern time on Thursday, February 5th. On DraftKings, the Seattle Seahawks are favored over the New England Patriots by 4.5 points. The over under is set at 45 and a half. Pretty much hasn't moved since yesterday when I last looked at it. Again, this is just DraftKings. I didn't know if you guys quickly wanted to look at any of these prop bets if you're interested in anything like that. So I'll just kind of throw out a couple ones at you, and you guys let me know. Steve, right now we're looking at players on either side um, to have basically over 2.5 players throwing a football in this game. So anybody aside May and Darnold, you take an over or under on that? Are we going to see any kind of trickery here for the Patriots or Seattle?
I wouldn't put it past either team to do it on Sunday. We know Josh McDaniels is not shy about doing that. Yeah, I think I'll take that bet. I think somebody's going to throw the ball, and I think it'll be on New England.
Yeah, I actually agree with that 100%. I was just talking to my brother the other day. I could absolutely see kind of a similar to like whether it's a Philly special kind of looking thing or where Drake maybe he's open to catch a pass. Maybe it's Hollins, maybe it's Chisholm. I could see Diggs somewhere, someone in that getting the ball and maybe making something happen. I kind of like the over on that. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of like the over on that as well. I think that there is a lot of opportunity here for still some I don't want to say trickery, but a little bit within the McDaniel's playbook, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got in store. And it wouldn't surprise me to see it early. Kind of catch these guys a little bit off guard, knock everyone off their heels a little bit. So I'm going to be very interested to see how they handle that. But yeah, I'm going with the over on this one.
You know what the problem is when you do things like this live is you're trying to scroll and and look to see what specials are popping up just specifically on the moment so I can look at prop bets for this, and so it gets really convoluted to do over now. But let's just throw out an interesting scenario for the sake of it. And this is a weird one, but kind of interesting. Um Drake May and Sam Darnold to each record 15 passing yards in each quarter, which you'd think on paper could be like, yeah, they're definitely going to throw for 15 yards each quarter. Well, I think in this kind of game where you could have some longer sustained drives with both teams running the ball, I think that could be kind of interesting here. Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't see that being an issue. I don't. I think, look, even if you're running the ball 15 yards, it isn't very much. So, yeah, I'd take that.
For sake of discretion, they have game specials and they go from best odds to longer odds, and so right now that's plus 105. For example, the next one's plus 230, and so on. So it gets more and more kind of complicated as you go. Just wanted to throw that one out there. I thought it was kind of fun. Mike, if you want to answer that one, that's fine. But I was going to throw to you one field goal made by each team each half. So I think that's also kind of interesting because I could see a scenario where both teams could be going for it a lot more on fourth down if it's inside that 30-35 yard line. So, or 30-35 yard marker. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think both teams are going to be able to score a field goal in both halves?
That's interesting. And Mike was actually he actually talked about this a little bit earlier today in his press conference about going for it on fourth down and how the league-wide perception of going for it on fourth down has changed, and that kind of takes a little bit out from what used to be on the shoulders of kickers. But I actually think this one has a chance of happening. Because of the stifling nature of both defenses and the fact that they do have a lot of bend don't break in them when the time is right. I could very easily see, teams getting into a situation where maybe early in the first quarter, maybe early in the third quarter, where there's still a lot of time left and there's still points to be had, that they may look and say, you know what? We've watched teams in this playoffs squander opportunities to put surefire points on the board, and sure enough, it comes down to either a 3 or 4 point game in the end. Yeah, I think this one's got a shot. So I'm going to take this one because I think that Borregales, I think, is going to be ready to go, and I think Seattle is going to be ready to mix it up as well. I can definitely see there being some legwork being done in both quarters.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, gentlemen. Two quick hitters here. Steve, the odds for this one, $10 would pay you $120 here. All right. The Seattle Seahawks to throw a touchdown pass from or inside the Patriots 1 yard line. Are they are they going to go ahead and attempt what they failed to do the first time and
Is that
complete
the
it?
Malcolm Butler bet?
Yeah, basically the tables turn essentially is the label here. So will the Seahawks throw and complete a touchdown pass inside or at the 1 yard line for the Patriots?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. But my sick, twisted brain is really hoping that every Seattle fan is banging the table that they just hand the ball off. They're like, finally, we can hand the ball off like we should have done with Marshawn Lynch, and then Kenneth Walker fumbles. I'm sick and twisted like that, but that would just give me much joy. Mike, will they throw and complete a touchdown pass, Seattle inside or at the Patriots 1 yard line? And you are muted, just so you know.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, of
Oh,
course, and then we
and then
and
we
then
lost.
and then we lose him right before the big finale. Okay, well, we'll have to get his answer. We'll have to get his answer later. I was gonna see heads or tails, which way we're going. I'm always going heads. I know everyone likes to go tails. I like to go heads. I like to be the black sheep, but that's just me. So Steve, I'm gonna try to bide a quick second to see if Mike can get back in here. As Chris says, Mike, as we're all waiting for him to come back to give these predictions here. Um, Steve, I guess final thought on the game coming up here before we give our predictions.
I think it's going to be one of those instant classics. I think it's going to come down to last play in the last quarter.
Yeah, do you think it's going to be? You think it's going to be a last play kind of game?
I do, and
In
that
your world,
will tie into my prediction.
Yeah. Okay. Well done. I was going to ask you, but then I would spoil the prediction. I also tend my final thought on the game to in all sincerity, is that I think it's going to be a battle. I think you're going to see both quarterbacks have some issues here or there because I think both defenses are that damn good. I think it will just be to see, which quarterback makes the most mistakes and how they survive it. The run game and all the things that we kind of already talked about. I think these teams have a lot of similar um, characteristics and attributes and personality traits and things like that. The head coaches, I think, are cut from similar cloths. I just think, all in all, maybe it's not the exact matchup that some people want, but I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. And I'm excited to see how these two teams come together. I do think it's going to be an edge of the seat kind of game. So, make sure you have your heart medication close, for those of you who are listening, because I know it's going to be be a stressful game. As we get into it, Steve, Patriots again are 4.5 point underdogs here. Give me your score prediction for the Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl.
New England 24, Seattle 23 on a last-second field goal by Andy Borregales.
Whew. I'll tell you right now, that's interesting for so many things. For one, the Patriots, win the game. Uh, the drama of the last second. That would also be, since we were talking about, since we were talking about, over under, that puts you at 47 points. And that field goal would literally change the under to the over on that as well, as take away the Seattle and flip the money line to the Patriots. So that would be kind of interesting there. Again, I like to throw that in there as just because we do talk about some of the other stuff from the sports books. Chris writes in, shares in. Chris, what's up? Thanks for sharing your prediction. He goes Patriots 27, Seahawks 24. Patriots run in the winning TD from the 1 yard line. Kind of tying a couple of nice things. You guys are seeing this.
That ties into that prop bet.
Certainly. And for me, I'm incredibly torn. I want to say that I think the Seahawks win, the Patriots cover. I think the Patriots are that's what my head kind of says that's what it is. My heart is thinking the Patriots. I do think that they ultimately ultimately are going to be able to come up with a couple of big plays and kind of surprise people. I think all week the underdog mentality will actually help them tremendously. I think that there is some pressure on Seattle, given how many people have selected them as winners and predicted them as winners, the money that's been coming in. I think that they are. I don't. I'm not saying the players feel this way, but I think that there are many fans and analysts that think Seattle could run away with it. I do think that Seattle could win in a blowout fashion because we've seen him do it to other elite teams. That would be incredibly surprising. I don't see that happening. And I really don't envision, as we talked about the other day, I can see a scenario where that happens, but I would be shocked. I think it's going to be a back and forth kind of game. And I've been flipping back and forth between Patriots, Seahawks, back and forth. But I ultimately continue to land on a 3 to 4 point difference. But I'm going to go Patriots 23, Seahawks 27. I think it's going to be close. I do think the Patriots absolutely have a dog in this fight, and they are going to have a say in it. I am really worried about the left side of the offensive line. I'm really worried about how the offense has clicked the last few weeks, and they're now facing another defense. I do think they'll be more prepared for it, but I also am going to be afraid if this is a game where the Patriots are going to have to score points, and it's not a low 20s kind of game. It's likely going to be a high 20s game, and so I want to see how that all plays out. I do think we're looking at this game win or lose. We talked about the running game, but I do think win or lose, there's a good chance we're talking about Drake May's performance and how it ties into this whole thing. So I am going to go Seahawks 27, Patriots 23, and man, I do hope I'm wrong. Steve, looks like Mike's not going to be joining us to finish the show, which is a total bummer because I really wanted to go ahead and include him, but I know you have to go and I do as well. So we'll have to wrap up here on this edition of Patriots No Huddle. Again, thank you for everyone who's listening live, I guess quickly, Mike is back. Mike, we were just about to close out the show, but I got to get your prediction on the game and then take us out, bud, okay?
Absolutely. Sorry about everything, gentlemen. I apologize for essentially kind of leaving you hanging there. But my opinion on this game and my prediction for this game, I think it's going to be an old-fashioned slugfest. I think both teams are going to have their difficulties. But bottom line, I do believe that the New England Patriots make just as many more plays as they need to bring home Lombardi Trophy number 7. I'm going with the New England Patriots in a 3-point victory, 24-21 over the Seattle Seahawks. I know I'll probably catch some stuff for that, but I've been going with the Patriots pretty much every game this year, and I'm not going to stop today. I'm going to continue to ride that, and hopefully the Pats will be able to bring one home. But the Seahawks are going to give them all they can handle, no question about it. And folks, we appreciate you all joining us today here on Patriots No Huddle. It's always an honor for us to be able to share the microphone and always be able to bring you the very latest from Foxborough and all the ins and outs, the ups and downs when it comes to New England Patriots football. On behalf of the great Derek Havens, on behalf of my Patriots paisan, Steve Balistrieri, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, stay well, be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, a great weekend. Enjoy the game on Sunday, responsibly, of course. And we'll see you back here next time on Patriots No Huddle.